when PIB classifies something that, okay, this is okay to be mediated, I'm thinking on some level they keeping track of that. This is a complaint against Simon for XYZ, and this could be mediated. I don't see that disappearing from their records. I mean, I'm not sure about that. If we talk about a process where they won't have that, then maybe you're right. But I just don't think that's going to go away. I'm thinking PIB is still going to be able, within their records, to determine if this complaint at this time should be allowed to be mediated. And so I don't think it's just the contents, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't think it's just the content of the complaint. I also think it may be the individual. Now, if we're talking about setting something up where that's not the case, that could be okay as well. But I just don't see PIB setting something up where they're getting a complaint and they just losing track of it because it becomes mediated.
Just for clarification, I think everyone was in the room last time, but what we had talked about was that our selection process include PIB first going through the initial classification procedures and them sending us those things that they classified as low level, from which we could pick for mediation, right? So the idea is that, were you not here for that?
No, I was here.
Okay. You just
Sorry,
look
I'm
confused.
just listening.
Okay. So the idea would be somebody does intake. PIB has to identify the officer and classify the complaint. And what is on the table is if it is not on the record as mediated, then PIB would keep that record that they referred it to mediation separate from the disciplinary history of the officer. But not that the record wouldn't exist at all. Does that make sense?
So it would still be cross-referenced. For instance, they get another complaint about that same officer. They would see this string of allegations that have come in that have all gone to mediation.
It wouldn't be an IA Pro where that officer's history is, but somewhere PIB keeps a classification log, right, of everything that comes in and how they classified it. So it would be there, but not in the disciplinary history.
And then we cross-check.
Maybe not. I can't speak for what PIB would do, but the record would be available to them if they wanted to consider it for any decision.
My question would be like, in that law that you said that they keep whatever complaints fit whatever criteria. And maybe someone's already explained that a while back, but I just don't remember. So what would be the normal process of, say, if mediation is not an option in that? Is it just deemed not something they would pursue and it?
Right. If something's classified as a DI3 by PIB, then it still gets assigned to an investigator. The investigator doesn't have the same deadlines. And it's probably because there's not much to do, not going to do much.
And there won't be that much of a sanction at all.
Right. And there won't be probably any sanction.
Right.
And what they will do is eventually write a letter to the complainant saying this was classified as no investigation merited, no formal investigation merited, and that's what you get.
So would those type of classifications be the bulk of cases coming into mediation?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about last week, is that we want the NIMFIMs.
NIMFIMs?
Yeah.
So I guess my thinking is if it's a NIMFIM, as you call it, police officers, I mean, what's their take on the NIMFIMs without mediation? I'm trying to see what would be the incentive. Because if it's not much a process anyway.
Still counts as on PEP. Still counts for
It
PEP.
counts in your tally, so if somebody wants to go back and look at you for a promotion, and you might have 12 NIMFIM complaints in a 20-year career, that's still going to mean something to people.
And it's not like the supervisor can take a look at it and say, hey, this has been exonerated. They just determined it wasn't important.
Okay, to move us forward, I want to go on and just take another vote and see where we are. So the question is, do we know on the officer's disciplinary file that the allegation was mediated, or do we have PIB not put any record on the disciplinary file? Can I see hands in favor of no record in the disciplinary file?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Is everyone else in favor of mediated in the disciplinary file? Are there some? Okay, let me see hands in favor of mediated in the disciplinary file.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yep.
And who's abstaining or uncertain?
So,
So,
I'm sorry, there was only one abstention.
we need to like have more consensus on this one, so I propose that we move forward to the next question, which is what happens if a mediation is unsuccessful? And to refresh your memory, by unsuccessful, we
Can I-
would,
can I
What about the
actually
two,
just-
that we probably not gonna do, which is
Oh.
the office's options on those two?
okay, yeah, we can talk about those two.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? And Captain, this is you before you walk out the door. Do people feel comfortable with me giving the names of the people that voted one way or another to the board? Okay, so, the 2 captains voted no record, right? And then, who else voted no record? Okay, Allison and Susan, okay. Oh, okay, so then it's 5, no record. Okay.
Okay, Captain, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I actually need the people that voted, mediated and disciplinary records.
That was Eva, Wes, Al,
Eva, Wes,
Mary Ellen,
Mary Ellen,
and I'm missing somebody.
Abby.
Abby.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Blue did point out though, there's 2 other incentives that we can come back to. So those 2 are either the mediation agreement goes in the officer's file, or we give the parties the option to place that agreement in the file. Can we take a vote on that? All in favor of giving the parties an option to put it in the file? Any opposed? Are there any folks who think that it should automatically go in the file?
Okay, so I got 8 people giving, the officer the choice of putting it into a file.
You can count none on that.
No,
Oh, good.
the only person that,
Oh, good.
I'm sorry, the only person I had that wasn't saying yes to that was Al.
Yeah, I'm good at saying yes or no. I'm just like, I'm not flowing.
Okay.
Okay.
But it sounds like we've agreed to that. Then there's the letter of recognition. Our couple of options are no letter of recognition, a letter of recognition to the supervisor, or a letter of recognition into the PIB file, or we give the officer the option of having a letter of recognition sent to whomever he wants. So, again, no letter, supervisor, PIB file, officer option. Oh, Simon.
Should I pause it?
No. We have quorum without Simon. What, Susan? You said-
That, I was green.
So, we can vote and Simon's back in the room. So,
New letter, supervisor.
I'm actually gonna nix the letter to PIB because, we haven't decided whether or not we want things to go into the PIB file. So I'm just tabling that one for right now. So our 3 options are no letter of recognition, letter of recognition to supervisor, or give the officer an option of having a letter of recognition sent to wherever he says he wants it sent. Can I see hands for officer option?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
And 9 with us.
and 9. Okay.
Who's opposed? Was there any opposition? Okay, we have consensus, cool. Okay, let's move on to,
I just, a small caveat, I would feel, going back to the allegation, mediated or not mediated, I would feel comfortable having no record if in fact I knew that PIB was going to track this so that it wasn't just a question of they could go on forever. So I don't know if we can.
What do you mean by it's gonna go on forever?
In other words, it's on their records, they have it there. The same officer doesn't end up with 4, 5, 6 mediations because there's no record of that happening on his file. But PIB their file, and they could cross-reference it even though it's not in his file.
What did we decide on if there's a certain limit of mediations per?
But how are you gonna know if
We
it's not in his
decided
file?
that there wasn't gonna be any exclusion criteria.
The reason we decided that was that we
Because we
thought
were
it would
going
be
through
PIB's
PIB.
discretion, because they would have a record.
Right.
They'll
But
know.
if they're not gonna look at it, then there's no
But they'll
discretion.
know when it comes up, each time it
But
comes.
it'll only be in their logbook, and it won't be associated with the individual officer. So that's my thought. Because why would you go and why would you just randomly like look, try to find patterns in the logbook? You would find the patterns in the individual officer's files, but I can't see them just randomly looking for a pattern in their logbook. Do you know what I'm saying? So it would be tracked in that logbook, which is fine. But I'm like, it still doesn't show the pattern of that particular
So
officer.
that's not a computerized thing, that's just a handwritten log.
I'm not sure.
I think it's a handwritten logbook.
If it's computerized, obviously you could just.
Well, we don't know that though.
I don't know that for sure,
Yeah.
but just observing what the intake section says, it sounds like it's all handwritten.
But let's hope that at one point PIB will become computerized.
I saw a bunch of hands and I lost track of them. There was a hand down here somewhere. Okay, I wanna table that sticky issue and we'll get some answers from PIB and come back to it. So let's go to the next question which was what happens if mediation is unsuccessful? And to remind y'all, by unsuccessful mediation, we mean that parties don't participate in good faith, and really we're just talking about the officer not participating in good faith, because if the civilian walks out, then they've given up their right to investigation. So in the event that an officer refuses to participate in good faith, some options are return the case to a traditional investigation, put a letter in the file indicating that it was an unsuccessful mediation, that's the disciplinary record, and then any other ideas.
Okay, it's just point of clarification. Return the complaint to additional investigation methods. There's a time frame, and we discussed previously about that, whether that would even be
We talked
allowable.
to Chief Westbrook about that, and she basically said that if we could go through our process of trying to get the mediation within the first 20 days, that she would sacrifice some of her 60 days to mediation.
And then the letter in the file that indicates an unsuccessful mediation, going to something you said just a moment ago, we're gonna define unsuccessful as the officer didn't do something, didn't willingly participate or something like that.
Right. So a citizen's participation couldn't result in an unsuccessful mediation on the officer's file.
When this complaint goes to traditional investigation, why does it matter that, in other words, let me go back. The officer says, okay, I'll go mediate, I agree to mediate, he goes to the mediation and decides he doesn't want to do it. So, I don't see why, I think he has a right to decide that. So I don't think we should have a letter that says he decided against mediation.
Okay.
That's his right. But I'm interested in knowing why that was even a suggestion.
I think that would be the alternative to investigation, because they have to have some sort of disposition. So in that situation, if we did not have that the allegation had to be investigated, that it would need to be noted in some way that it was neither investigated nor successfully mediated.
Oh, I thought it would automatically go to investigation.
I'm guessing that's what Astrid was thinking about. I think these are either or options.
Oh, okay, then I vote for going to investigation.
See, that's some
I just have a question, and again, it's just process. So when the complaints come from PIB, they're the NIMBYs, the he said, she said, the ones that don't have investigatory substance anyway, or real disciplinary action that the investigation could come about with. And this is more, community policing, supporting the police officers and the community coming together and opening communication and trust and respect and all that sort of thing. So if the complaint isn't going to, nothing's going to happen through PIB with the complaints that we get, chances are, because they're unsubstantiated or can't be investigated or whatever the case may be, if the officer comes the incentive seems that if they participate, nothing should be in their file. The disincentive says that if they agree to participate and then decide as their right to back out, then a letter should be sent as, it should be then on the officer to say, well, you said you were gonna do it, and now you're not gonna do it. So, you know what I mean? I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but I'm trying to help
So you think there
somebody.
should be a letter?
If they say that they're going to do it and then refuse to participate. So what I don't want to happen is for an officer to say, yes, I'm gonna participate in mediation, just because they think it's not gonna show up on their record.
Oh,
So backtracking, if the officer says, yeah, hey, if I go to mediation, this ain't gonna be on my record. So if you go to mediation and it's successful, the incentive is for it not to be on your file thing. If you say you're gonna go and then you choose not to go, which is their right as an officer, something else is going to have to
yeah,
occur.
I agree, something else.
But I can't
But I don't think it
articulate
should be
what
a
the
letter.
else should be.
Okay, Al, and then process
Yeah,
going.
having been in that exact same scenario that you're confronting, where in front of the magistrate or the judge, parties have agreed to go into mediation. We go off into mediation, for whatever the reason is. Now, in session, there's a breakdown. They do not want to mediate. So now we go back to the front of the judge or the magistrate, and we say it's the language. I think the language here is causing confusion, saying unsuccessful mediation. We say, Your Honor, parties could not agree to mediate. Then the judge just picks it up and it's proceeded. So I think it's the language. So, in other words, there's no blame.
Right, I understand
one
that,
looks to see
I understand
who-
that in a criminal mediation where a judge
Actually, it's
requires
not-
that you
it's
mandate.
not
This
criminal.
is not a required,
It's not
or
civil.
even child custody or,
Civil.
all of that.
So my point is saying that is, so no, there's no blame. And if you establish the language, there's no blame. So it's not the officer's not at fault. No, it's the civilian, so to speak. So in other words, just like to have a mediation,
no,
both parties have to. They
I
couldn't agree,
understand
so
that.
they couldn't agree.
Well,
You move
I'm not
forward.
talking about them
So there's
agreeing
no
on
mediation.
anything.
So
Agree to mediate.
to mediate. So in other words, so there's no fault, no blame. No. So we proceed in normal fashion, then back to the whatever.
But then-
Okay,
The penalty is that instead of having no record, it goes back to investigation, and then it can be unsubstantiated.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
That's-
and that's,
that's the option.
but the only incentive for the mediation to occur then seems logic that it would be nothing on their record if the complaint is mediated successfully.
Right.
Do you follow what I'm saying?
Right.
And
so
we
go
can't
back
all
to our
agree
last-
not to put it in their record if it's successful, but we can all seem to agree to put it in their record if it's not successful.
Not put it in the
We
record.
go back to
to-
unsubstantiated
to
or, whatever the
whatever
case may
process.
be.
Yeah.
So it seems that there really isn't any officer incentive other than to have an unsubstantiated line on their disciplinary file. And, I don't know how important that may or may not be to a particular police officer or an individual police officer, but I think part of the job of this group is to make the program as successful as we can and to get as much buy-in as we can from the top.
So I guess what I'm saying is that it goes right back to the original position that they could not agree to mediate, where if there was no mediation at all, just right back to the original position, so there's no
I'm
fault,
sorry,
no
I need
blame.
to pause this discussion because it's 3:30. And what we promised folks that we would wrap it up at 3:30. So I'm gonna take one more comment from Simon, but it doesn't sound like we're ready to make a decision here. So I think we should just set a next meeting date, and this will be at the top of our agenda at our next meeting. Simon?
I heard two different things. One, I heard unsuccessful mediation was specifically addressing that the officer chose not to participate. The other one that I think I was hearing more recently was if for some reason they agree it's not being successful or something like that. It's two different things. If we define it specifically as the officer has chosen, initially chose to go participate in mediation, and then has chosen not to participate, if that's what unsuccessful is defined, has nothing to do with the citizen, then that's fine. We're all on the same page and we can approach it from that perspective. I'm just not sure exactly what definition, because I think I heard both things.
The board favors more, and this shouldn't affect your opinion, I'm just throwing it out as information because I think that there's more robust conversations that occur in here than with the board. But the board favors the notion of unsuccessful mediation being where the officer or the complainant folds his arms or her
Okay,
arms
either one,
and-
okay.
No, and doesn't participate fully. It's not a case of them not coming to the agreement.
Because they said they wanted to investigate.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So Ursula made the point that they would like to have the option of only reinvestigating or only investigating the complaint if the officer refused to participate. And the example that was given was the officer folding his or her arms in mediation and not participating in good faith.
Okay, so we basically gonna define it as the officer
It's one of
deciding
the
at some point
definitions.
moving forward with the mediation.
It's one of the definitions. I mean, I really want to reiterate that this group,
We need to decide what that definition is
Right.
gonna be.
Decide.
That's really the issue, and if
Yeah.
that's the definition, then we all can think about how we wanna approach
So
it.
they're okay with unsuccessful mediation as the label, and so what, I mean, basically, that's what I'm hearing.
It
Uh,
sounds to me
example?
like we
Yeah.
need to define what
Yeah.
unsuccessful is. I have my own definition in my head, but we need to have finalized that discussion, and then it will make it easier to talk about incentives and disincentives. So my proposal, because it's now 3:31, is that we discuss successful and unsuccessful mediation via Big Tent, and we set a date to come back here and make some more decisions regarding incentives and the next few things
Well,
on
I
our
do
agenda.
wanna just say, I had to call the police over this weekend, I got some guy stealing copper from our light pole out front of my house. Well, two weeks ago, I'm sorry, well, this morning, as a matter of fact, a young man called me doing a survey about my satisfaction with the police officer. No, and I'm not even kidding.
No, I
Did you
believe
ask
you.
which agency
And
they're
was the officer courteous? Were they friendly? Did they show up on? I was like, get out of town. I mean, stuff is happening.
Yeah.
You know, stuff is happening in a positive light. I do just want to put that out there.
Bravo. So, how does Monday the 24th look for people?
2:00?
2:00. I think we're wearing Abby out though, and she's not gonna be working here anymore, so if people have space suggestions, I'd appreciate it. If not, I'll find us somewhere. Oh, the Bar Association. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna say Monday the 24th from 2 to 3:30, tentatively at the Bar Association. And I will post the question of mediation success and unsuccess on Big Tent. Is there anyone who doesn't have access to Big Tent? If y'all would prefer, I can do these questions via email if Big Tent is difficult for y'all. I can just start an email stream.
People who it's difficult for them.
I will put it on Big Tent and start an email stream. All right, thank y'all so much, and we did great. We made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 major decisions today.